me ask you this. While playing Dragon Nest, have you ever thought that the gameplay is too riveting? Too intense? Would you instead prefer something that looks like this? Well, worry not, because the overloads of identity had accounted for such scenario. If you're feeling burnt out from farming, you can rest by doing, well, a different type of farming. A literal one. Dragon Nest truly is a wonderful game. It got everything. Well, except from popularity. In any case, if you've ever played Dragon Nest at all, then you probably already know about its farming mechanic, although I totally won't be surprised if you don't. In fact, I'm pretty sure the majority of players' experience with farming goes something like this. After finally getting to Saint Haven and reaching level 24, you unlock a mysterious quest called Farm District Grand Open. You decide to check it out, and after being bombarded by a wall of text from this older gentleman, you get your farming gear and you're ready to touch some virtual grass. You decide to try out these newly unlocked features, and after playing with them for a couple of minutes, you realize that the entire farming section of the game is completely useless and boring as hell, so you dump your farming gear in the storage where it lays forgotten for the rest of your life. Yeah, the farming system in Dragon Nest is definitely not the most refined feature of the game. Actually, I'm pretty sure it hasn't been updated ever since it was first introduced like a decade ago by this point. The only thing that was added later were limited time recipes and sea fishing, which is just a time-gated reskin of regular fishing with a soundtrack that goes a little too hard for an event like this. They did actually try to add some use to the farming mechanic when they introduced guild missions, but they didn't really do a good job at it. Did they actually expect people to drop everything because this fat ass needs 50 billion fish by next week? Nah bruh, what is this? I think by this point I don't even need to say that almost nobody actually farms in this game. And by almost, I mean that one specific person from Discord. You know who you are. Anyway, because this mechanic is so forgotten, I've decided that it would be interesting to see just how much I can do in Dragon Nest by farming only. The length of this challenge is 1 week, simply because I don't think it would be necessary to do the same thing over and over for longer than that. By the end of the week, the goal is to see how much fish I will catch, how many plants I can grow, and how many recipes I can unlock. Oh, and also how many levels of every farming skill I can get. Hey, did you guys know that if you max out all your farming skills, you will unlock the secret romance route with the farmer? Well, actually, I just made that up. Unfortunately, there is no such thing as secret romance route in this game, and frankly, I doubt I'll reach max level in every skill in that week anyway, so we're not gonna miss out on much. One thing I did not expect to be part of the challenge, however, is actually trying to find a server to play on. You see, the reason I don't register on any of the official servers is because, unfortunately, all of them are region locked, and I don't want a VPN to eat up half of my already shitty internet. And when I thought that I managed to finally find a running private server, which didn't look like it would install a crypto miner on my laptop, this happened. Oh, it's like a server thing, I got it. What? Guys, I think the challenge is cancelled. Yeah, I guess this is just a testament to how relevant the farming mechanic is in Dragon Nest. I still have no idea why they removed the entire location, but didn't remove the farming quest. Anyway, after some time, I found a different server, which actually has a functioning farm this time. You may check it out yourself in case you're interested. But, considering private Dragon Nest servers often have a lifespan of an average insect, don't be surprised if it's already closed by the time you're watching this video. In any case, it's finally time to see how Dragon Nest would be if it was a farming mobile game. I started day 1 with accepting the farming quest, which would allow me to progress. By the way, something I've never noticed before is that the farmer's full name is actually Moriet. Cool to know, I guess. One thing that I must mention is that the server has something known as cash showers, which means that if you're online at a specific time on Wednesdays, Fridays or Sundays, you will receive free cash shop currency. Unfortunately, the one cash shower I happened to catch during my playtime wasn't enough to get me anything worthwhile. So I had to stick with my ugly free-to-play costume. Anyway, after definitely listening to whatever the old man had to say, I completed the quest and got the starter farming gear. Something I didn't expect to encounter as a problem was my inventory space. I got so used to servers instantly giving you all 5 slots, but this one for some reason only gave me 2 to work with. I thought I could put all the extra shit in the warehouse, but it had even less space, like what is this? Eventually I got annoyed and saw some of the weird items I had no clue what to do with. Seeing this will probably make some people very angry, but this is a farming only run anyway, so who cares? After that I decided to explore this field full of someone's grown crops and wonder if this game would let me harvest them, even though they weren't mine. It did. At first I freaked out because I thought I just stole someone's produce, but then I realized that it just went to the player's farming warehouse. Yes, I had no idea you could gather other people's crops. I played this game since 2015, by the way. Since that was resolved, I stocked up on equipment and seeds. Then I finally went on to plant my first crops. I watched this goofy animation while I planted as much as the game allowed me to, and all that was left to do was wait 30 minutes. In the meantime, I decided to try cooking. For some reason, the beginner level doesn't have any actual food recipes, it's just all these potions. So after buying some ingredients, I chose to cook the beginner intellect for 20 IQ juice, mainly because that's my class's main stat. I cooked just enough to reach the next level and unlock the first actual food ever: bread. After that I remembered that my plants actually have to be watered. Wow, so realistic! But at that moment I also noticed one of the biggest asshole designs in Dragon Nest farming. Spoiler alert, it's not the only one. You see, it's not enough to just wait for the crops to grow. You also have to make sure that they don't dry out. There is a timer to keep track of how much is left until your plants die from dehydration. However, this timer is specifically programmed to always run out faster than the growing time. So even if your plant will only have to grow for 30 minutes, it will still require you to waste a full watering can. Are we in the Sahara Desert right now? How much water could these damn plants need? Anyway, to pass more time, I've decided to harvest some of the stranger's plants, but my zoomer attention span quickly ran out and I went to try out fishing. The fishing mechanic in this game is very simple and quite similar to the ones in other games. You just have to keep the bar in the red by clicking the left mouse button. But as I tried to showcase this, the game bugged out and made me stuck in the fishing purgatory until I tried again. There is also an automatic mode, in which literally all you have to do is wait for the fish to catch itself. Why even have the manual mode in that case? Well, the automatic mode is actually supposed to be slightly slower, but realistically it's not worth the hassle. I say supposed to because something I immediately noticed is that the progress bar was much faster than I remember it being. I'm pretty sure the server had sped up the automatic fishing rates, which is probably what caused the manual mode to bug out on me, since I could be fishing for literally 24 hours if I wanted. And frankly, I didn't want it. I've decided that for this challenge, I will be fishing for at least an hour daily. At that point, I've left my character to fish while I went out to do some cooking in real life. I briefly came back with my stove still on, because my first crops ever were ready for harvest. I quickly gathered them before planting the next batch and watering it. I've also decided to try planting one of these peach trees, which will take 5 whole days to grow, so it would be best to plant one at the very start of the challenge. After doing that, I went back to AFK fish. For some reason, that spot kept giving me this weird pop-up, even though the fish were coming in just fine. So I chose another spot nearby and this time it was normal. This footage is way too boring, let me fix it real quick. Nah, still not enough. More. More! I was still fishing when I cooked my pasta and ate it while watching YouTube on my phone. Apparently during this hour I've used up 322 bait, caught 198 fish, 9 of these ominous rings, and 19 bags of trash. It seems that this river is a great place for dumping your arranged marriage spouses. Before logging off for the day, I harvested another batch and planted one more to gather off camera. I didn't plan to film any more footage today, but that was until I decided to take out my crops from the farming warehouse. In the folder where I keep all the challenge footage, I named this one Asshole Design, because I have no better way to describe it. When it's time to take your crops, there is no way to gather all the crops at once, and you have to manually drag each one and add it to your inventory. But that wasn't the worst of it. The worst part is that the crops don't stack. After you've added them to your inventory, you have to drag each one and stack them yourself. And no, unfortunately, pressing sort items doesn't clean up this mess either. I'm starting to see more reasons why people don't like to farm in this game now. However, if we don't count the quality of life bra moments, I'd say that the first day was rather productive. Fruitful, if I do say so myself.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I began the second day by briefly logging in to collect my overnight crops and planting the next batch. I decided to first use up all my quickly growing seeds, before getting to the ones that take up longer. I've also finally figured out how to expand my inventory and warehouse space, so that's one less thing for me to worry about. After dealing with that problem, I went to gather the produce that I've planted earlier. However, I accidentally planted these mushrooms because for some reason my dumbass remembered them only taking 30 minutes to grow. By the way, these seeds look very questionable. Then I thought I could increase my cooking level, so I baked some destruction bread and this defense potion literally no one is going to use. When I made enough bread to feed a small African country, I finally unlocked the advanced recipes, which included cakes and waffles. Also, can we talk about how these ingredients make no sense? Apparently, to make a cake that looks like this, I would need potatoes. And to make waffles, I need goddamn fish of all things. And I'm not even talking about the mushrooms. Why are these things the ingredient options when we literally have berries and wheat? Having enough of this cursed cuisine, I decided to take the advice of my advanced farming skill description and try earning a living as a farmer. The only way for me to do that was the auction. But at first I decided to check out how the farming industry is doing on the market and...
Oh my goodness!
Besides the unreasonably overpriced fruit, the farming section was completely empty, which I kinda expected. I've decided to try selling some of my fish, but then I was greeted with this. Yeah, turns out to unlock the auction, first you have to complete the entire novice section of the beginner's guide. And how do you do that exactly? By doing all of this shit. But in case you already forgot the title of this video, this account is farming only, which means that I can't do any of this, which in turn means no auction for me. In conclusion, my only way to make money was selling to the merchant NPCs, which wouldn't be a problem if their buying rates weren't so low. Anyway, we'll actually come back to ways to making money a bit later. For now though, it's back to the grind. I've gathered and replanted another batch of seeds before getting on with the most time-consuming task, fishing. I left the game running where I went off to hoover my flat. I would occasionally come back to make sure the game didn't crash while I was AFK. Luckily, that didn't happen this time. I think I actually ended up fishing for a bit longer than an hour today, because I also decided to fish while having lunch. When I became full of soup, I did the usual before seeing what the fishing gacha had in store this day. I actually managed to get 2 items that I'd never seen before. Unfortunately, both of them were part of some useless, outdated in-game currency, which means they cost just as much as your average pump and dump crypto coin. Talking about coins, after buying all the farming gear on the first day, I only had 1,800 left out of the 5,000 starter gold given to me. So I had an idea. Since every character on this server was given 5k starter funds, would it be possible to transfer these funds to another character? Considering my gradually worsening financial situation and my lack of options, I had to at least give it a try. So I decided to rob a homeless man. The only reason I chose Wander to do this was because he's the only one who will give me an opportunity to hang out with Kyle. Kyle, yay, Kyle, yay. When I went to collect the fresh drip Kyle so generously provided to me, I've discovered that when you hold the F key, this happens. You think that they've just sped up the item pickup animation, but in fact, they did something much better. They've added twerking to Dragon Nest.
Oh, you got an ass on you, all right. See, that's what he's talking about. Spread your ass open, troop. You can do the rump shaker, huh? The ranger shaker. Give me the ranger shaker, trooper. Shake your ass. Take your hands off it and shake that shit. Pull your combat top up. I know you can shake it. Shake it. Yeah, that's some ranger ass right there. Oh yeah, that'll work. You got the booty, troop. Goddamn.
I must admit, I've been having too much fun with the twerking animation. Once I've discovered that I could make Wander shake his ass like a man whore he is, I could not stop doing it. Kyle got some action. These random chars got some action. Y'all just jealous because y'all don't have the fat ass to twerk like I do. And even Rubinard got some action. Although, I think he liked it a little too much, because right after that Wander passed out and woke up naked. Alas, now was the moment of truth. Could I transfer the 5k I received to my other character? And the answer was oddly predictable. I then tried mailing the money, but the same message that cock-blocked me before popped up again. Needless to say, I am not doing the beginner's guide for this run. However, even though this whole endeavor turned out to be completely useless, Wander Ranger Shaker more than makes it up for me. And on that note, I decided to end the day. As soon as I logged in, I've been notified that someone had collected my crops for me. At first I thought it was a kind gesture from a nice stranger. But man, I was only about to realize what this notification truly meant. It turns out, while I was sleeping, literally every other Dragon Nest farmer on the server had logged in and filled every available plot with either peaches or golden apples. Now, I really understood why nobody wants to farm in this game. The one time I actually do, I physically can. Honestly, who the hell designed this system? This is like the fourth asshole design that I've been hit with at this point. They clearly know how to program individual farming plots, but no. Apparently, the entire server is supposed to somehow share this single farm. Can I please go one video without having to turn into a Wellscoot can? Just one, please. Anyway, the only place that would be available to me was the one that I planted those scum mushrooms the day before. Who would have thought that this mistake would end up inadvertently saving me? However, it would still be over 40 minutes before I could gather the mushrooms. So I went back to the city to cook for a bit while waiting for the cash shower to hit. Since the auction wasn't available to me, I could now confidently use everything I grew and caught to level up my cooking, even if that involved making fish waffles. I was finally graced with the golden shower and immediately hit up the cash shop, but instead of dripping up like any other normal person, there was another purchase I had in mind: the hard fishing rod. I've been actually planning on buying it ever since the start of this challenge, but here's the thing. The purpose of this fishing rod is to speed up the auto fishing mode. Remember how I said that it was supposed to be slower? Well, since the server actually sped up this mode without any extra equipment, I started to wonder if having this fishing rod would actually do anything. It would either make the fishing go even faster, or it would just end up doing nothing. In any case, I've decided to try it out. But just when I thought my farming luck couldn't get any worse after the failed plots fiasco, this happened. Yes, I was lacking two whole cash to buy this goddamn fishing rod I didn't even know works or not. At that point, I felt like the entire server had conspired to deliberately troll me. Well, fortunately, I had another cash hour waiting for me at 6 in the evening, but that would only be in 5 hours. I decided to start fishing a bit early while I waited for my mushrooms to finish growing. I had to literally camp them since I became paranoid that some asshole would take out my only spot where I wasn't looking. Luckily, that didn't happen, and I got my mushroom and this weird herb. I remember that it's been 3 days now since the old man asked me for a golden apple, and if I didn't plant one now, it could be that I never would. It sure would be nice if I could plant more than one though. Getting that out of the way, I went back to fishing. Today I killed time by playing another RPG with a fishing mechanic nobody likes: Genshin Impact.
Use as a temporary base. I'll come back later and tidy up a bit. After that, it should be all ready for you to stay in tonight.
No, this video is not sponsored. Even Raid Shadow Legends wouldn't sponsor a channel with like 7 subscribers. This was your cue to increase that number. Anyway, because of this, I actually ended up fishing for more than an hour, because the story quest I was doing turned out to be longer than I anticipated. At least all this extra fish would be a good way to compensate for my lack of crops this day. What I didn't expect, however, was catching not 1, but 2 different extra rare fishes. It seems that fate had decided to compensate me for my shitty luck. Also, turns out this rainbow fish gives you a funny title, which of course I proudly displayed on my purse. This was also the first time I actually spotted another person on the farm. I cooked for a bit more while waiting for the evening cash shower, and as soon as I got it, I finally bought the anticipated fishing rod, which is probably the first and last time I will ever buy this item. I even got some leftovers, so I scrambled to buy at least some drip so I could finally stop staring at this ugly ass costume. When I made my default costume tier list, I put this one in D tier. Sorry if you like it, but the Asworlds ain't doing it for me. Unfortunately, there is also my budget shopping spree weren't as appealing as I expected.
But what the hell, but?
I can't even tell if this looks better or worse. But that didn't matter, since it was finally time to test out the fishing rod. I didn't notice any difference at first glance, but after I inspected the footage in my editing software, I could confirm that the new fishing rod speeds up the process exactly by 2 seconds. Which doesn't sound like it would be worth more than 2,000 cash, but keep in mind that it almost half the 4 seconds it used to be as it promised to do. Yay, it actually works, I didn't waste any money! I logged back in later to camp these random strangers' plants so I could grow my own immediately as soon as theirs finished. I also almost forgot to open my daily fishing loot boxes, but they didn't really give me anything useful. I wanted to plant more golden apples, but the game said that I can't do that anymore, implying that I could before. Whatever the hell happened here, I just decided to grow some other random seeds I had instead. And with that, the day was over. For some reason I feel like a lot happened today, but at the same time like nothing did. I'm sorry, but every time I see this creature, the only thing I can think of is this image. Since a lot of my plants were ready for harvest yet, I began straight with fishing. Last time I had good luck in this spot, so I chose it again. And let me tell you, this fishing rod combined with the server sped up rates made fishing almost instant. The moment the line was cast, a fish would already pop up at the hook. Or sometimes not, since I didn't have the better success level bait. This time I spent my dedicated fishing hour doing dailies in my favorite gacha games. Completely unrelated to fishing, but for some reason when I tried to record some Star Rail footage on my phone to show here, the game's graphics began freaking out and I thought that was kind of funny. Also, I don't know if this spot really is extra lucky, but I got 2 more epic rarity fish. The fish and loot boxes only gave me more trash I could feed to my vendor though. I swear I've seen people sell these on the auction before. Do they even have anything good in them ever? I also forgot that my golden apples have grown and almost logged off without harvesting them. I made sure to plant more in their place. Unfortunately, yesterday's land crisis fucked up my entire farming schedule, so now I would have to log on to harvest these at night. Great. Many hours later and I'm back, just like I promised. Besides my plant farming, I went out to try leveling up my cooking. In the process, I've used up all my available resources, so I had to buy more with my quickly draining wallet. But I guess it was worth it because I had reached master level cooking, and with it, more cursed recipes. I've cooked a bit of this Italian's nightmare before accidentally discovering the old man was hiding more recipes from me this entire time. I, of course, bought them all, except for the more expensive ones. This is where I finally discovered what I could do with all these rare fish that I caught. Still couldn't figure out what these dishes would do though, but hey, at least it's something. After that I realized that today seemed rather uneventful to me. Because of that I decided to visit the hot spring. In case you don't know, hot springs is a place where you can regenerate a small amount of fatigue points. I'm sure by this point you've noticed this green bar at the bottom of my screen. Yeah, those. The thing is, since I hadn't been spending any of my fatigue in any dungeons or nests, I thought I had absolutely no reason visiting the springs. The only reason I decided to do so was to see if anyone else was there at the time, so I could generously speed up their recovery progress. To no one's surprise, the place turned out to be a ghost town. However, as I was about to leave, I was jump-scared by this random-ass goblin. I was utterly confused since I've never seen anything like this in here. This is a place where you go AFK for like half an hour. Why was I suddenly attacked by some goblin? It got utterly obliterated by one tap. And as I didn't even process what I just saw, a fat golden goblin had logged in. It took a bit longer to kill, but what I did not expect even more was the amount of gold he dropped. Suddenly I can see the source of the rapid market inflation. Periodically this absolute unit would spawn, and I actually don't know if he drops anything, but that didn't matter because the sheer amount of gold I found from this whole experience surpassed the amount I had started with. I actually don't know if this feature is exclusive to the server or had been added fairly recently. Now I realize that those who already knew of this feature probably were screaming at me to go to the hot springs when I was struggling to earn money at day 2. See, Wanda, I thought I would end up on the streets like you, but now I don't need your stinky pocket change. I don't need that annoying bitch-ass permit. I still don't know which goblin cave these creatures are coming from, but honestly, I couldn't care less, because they make that golden shower rain on me. This is probably the worst sentence I could end the day on. I was still curious if the 4th fishing zone was especially lucky or not, so to test it out today I will be fishing the first one. I didn't get any weird pop-ups this time, still not sure what that was about. I planned to kill time exactly like yesterday, but then my dumbass cat got poo-poo stuck all over his fluffy ass and I had to go wash it off. I apologize if this was too much information for you, but this is just the reality of owning a fluffy cat no one talks about. Shit happens. After facing the challenge of having to bathe a cat that hates water without any help, my fishing experiment yielded interesting results. I don't know if this is just a coincidence or not, but this time I didn't catch any epic fish. I guess we'll wait for tomorrow to investigate further. I've also remembered that an automatic loot box opener sure does exist. But guess what? All I got was still a bunch of
Trash!
Following that, I did my best to throw my cooking skill. I actually managed to improve by 2 levels, but unfortunately my dumbass forgot to unpause the recording. So I'll have to show you my improvements where I log back for the night. Starting the MasterChef stage, the recipes now actually require dishes from previous levels for cooking. Now I'm very glad I didn't have to sell all my food. Also, let me just say how nice it is to actually have money. Turns out cooking in this game is rather expensive, just like in real life. So having all that gold is the only reason I managed to do such progress with the cooking skill today. I also saw this weird black void glitch which made me think that the Mistborn forces were invading for a second.
One eternity later.
I have something to tell you guys. I didn't think it was possible, but I actually managed to reach max level in cooking skill. As you can see, this unlocks several new recipes, all of which are even more cursed than the previous ones. Maybe if sushi was actually made of spaghetti, I would enjoy eating it. Gordon Ramsay been real quiet since this dropped. Before ending the day, I replanted another batch of seeds and found more gold in the hot springs, just in case I will need it.
Money! 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 Money!
In the end, today we reached one of our main milestones of this challenge. However, in retrospective, I would say that cooking is the easiest farming skill to max out. But at the same time, it's quite pay to win to level up, since it drained me of almost 10,000 gold. And it makes me question, will I be able to max out 2 skills I have left in only 2 days? Since I'm starting to run out of time, today I began fishing earlier than I usually would. If cooking levels are anything to go by, I still had many levels until I could max it out. So I had to increase the time I spent fishing in order to progress. This day was also special because it was also cash shower day. At this point I realized that even if I invest into the growth booster, there was absolutely no way I would max out the farming skill. So instead I decided to fix my fashion situation. Looks much better, doesn't it? Anyway, as soon as I dripped up I went straight back to fishing. Oh, what's that? You wanna listen to how I occupied myself while fishing? No? Well, too bad, because you're gonna hear about it anyway. I did plenty of things while my character was forced to slave away with the fishing rod. After I had more pasta for lunch, I started craving an energy drink, so I went outside to buy some. I came back and drank it while gaming for a while, and I even went off to do the dishes. For some reason my software stopped recording after 38 minutes and I didn't notice. But trust me, you missed literally nothing. But the fruits of my extensive fishing were here. Finally, after all this time, I became a masturbator. This was great, but I still had 2 more levels to go. Also, if you're wondering about the results of my fishing zones experiment, honestly, I don't even know what to say. Today I fished in the forest zone for at least 2 hours by now, and this time I didn't catch any epic fish at all. Which means my luck probably didn't have anything to do with zone 4. I logged in later to masturbate a bit longer. I chose not to record it because it would just be more of the same shit. I also came face to face with the harsh reality of what happens if you forget to water your crops. I thought that they would just stop growing until you watered them again, but instead they literally disappear without a trace. For a second I even thought that I actually forgot to plant a new seed, even though I distinctly remember doing so. I rewatched the footage and realized that the game was in fact not trying to gaslight me and my plant just fucking died. This is your daily reminder to water your plants. In real life too. Somehow up until this time, I didn't notice there was another common monastery farm at Field 7. Knowing this probably wouldn't been useful when I couldn't find place to plant my crops on day 3, but whatever. I think my criticism of the farming system still stands. Anyway, when I went there to investigate, I actually saw somebody else fishing for the first time. But I felt kinda awkward randomly joining their gang, so I went to a different zone. I didn't stay there for long because I kept getting notified about the fishing event that was supposed to start soon, and hey, since I have to level up my fishing skill anyway, why not do it at the event? The problem was, I had absolutely no clue what the event was about. No perks, no rewards, no info on how to participate, nothing. I looked in their Discord server and I could find absolutely no information about the fishing event, besides more notifications about it and that it was apparently rescheduled during Ramadan. Cool, I guess. At first I thought it would be held at the event stage with Mori's weird cousin. However, when the system notified about the event starting, it also mentioned field 2, so I did eventually figure out where to go. When I arrived, I realized that the mysterious fishing event was just the regular sea fishing all along. I've also noticed that the fishing rates for the sea fishing weren't altered, which felt rather jarring after I used to the speedrun strats. To be honest, I still don't know what the point of the sea fishing event is. My best guess is to see who can catch the biggest fish, since the size of each catch is indicated this time. I actually managed to catch a big snapper, which I thought meant that my master baiting skills were finally paying off. But as soon as I began to feel lucky, my animation got stuck and I suddenly couldn't do anything. At that moment I realized that my internet randomly disconnected, as it casually does. Well, no big deal. I'll just quickly restart it and go back to fishing, I said. Well, that was certainly the plan, until I tried to go to the second zone and was met with this. At this point, I began to suspect that something other than my internet might be at fault. My connection is still a pile of steaming shit, but something else was also sus. I tried joining the event again, but was met with the same damn error. This made me worried that something must have gone horribly wrong, and now I'm permanently stuck in Saint Heaven. But when I tried joining the regular farm, it loaded just fine. Well, at that point I realized that my character must have severe seasickness or something, and the event was cancelled. So I thought I would just return to regular fishing instead. But guess what happened? My goddamn internet died again. When I reconnected once more, I tried to go to field 2 one last time. I actually felt a bit of hope when I saw the loading screen instead of the dreaded pop-up. But that hope died before it had the chance, because what followed next was a silent black screen with nothing else. Yeah, I had enough of this by now. I relogged one more time to definitely return to normal fishing, but I could only catch one fish before being met with this. You know what? I didn't think this could happen, but I'm starting to suspect the game had enough of me fishing for today. But guess what, game? I don't care about your goddamn feelings. I have a challenge to complete. So I logged back in for the night. This time, the game was running just fine like it did before. Maybe it needed a break, I still can't tell what the fuck that was about. Anyway, I fished while planting more seeds, desperately trying to raise my farming level. Eventually I became an expert baiter. Now it doesn't sound funny anymore. But I couldn't rest yet, as I had one more level until I could max out. In the meantime, I also managed to raise my farming to superior, and I think that's the best we're gonna get.
Much later.
It took many long hours, but I finally did it. I became the legend beta. And no, I decided against maxing out my points like I did with cooking. I think I'm gonna see this damn animation in my dreams now. I started the dawn of the final day by having hiccups. Anyway, I must admit that I feel somewhat unbelievable that it's already day 7. I swear I only started this challenge like a couple of days ago. Nonetheless, I began with seeing what these special recipes I bought a while back are all about. I've cooked up all the ones available to me and nothing. I still have no idea what they do. The description says these are needed for some sort of farming event, but I'm not even sure that's still relevant. After that, I went to open all of my fish and loot boxes from yesterday. The catch was plentiful, so even with the auto-opener it still took a while. Unfortunately, the only new item I got was this one. What's crazy is that I actually remember farming these back in the day. Then I remembered that Old Man Mori actually had more recipes I never got, back when I was still struggling to make ends meet, so I went to check them out. Buying them actually gave me an achievement, which was surprising. But what was even more crazy was the fact that I actually happened to have all the necessary resources to cook both of these dishes, which gave me another achievement for each one. Most of my crops haven't grown yet, and even when I logged in later to the day to gather them, which I did, it would still not be enough to get my farming skill to the next level. I'm sorry, but in which universe does this look like blue? And at that moment, I came to the realization that there was nothing else left for me to do. I went to take one last lazy stroll around the farm. I imagined the air here to be especially fresh, as it carried the smells of wet soil and dry produce. Each step over the bright, grassy textures held the memory that was distant, yet fresh like the morning dew. During my week-long stay, I have never felt lonely in this place. How could I be, when the farm was brimming with life, greeting me at every unexpected corner? I took in these wonderful, rustic sights, hearing as the distant sound of the waterfall whispered me goodbye. I seated myself at the dock, staring into the water, which looked clean and filthy at the same time. I could only imagine what these numerous brown spots drifting on the surface were meant to be. But whatever it was, it kept these waters abundant with fish. I would know that, as I watched two of them helplessly squirming beside me. I had even more of them in my pockets, and they were leaving this place with me. This farm will become even quieter the moment I step foot outside these brimming fields. As sad as it may be to end this, I think it is time to finally wrap up this journey. Okay, enough with the sentimental bit, let's end this shit. Honestly, when I started this challenge, I didn't think that I would max out not only cooking, but fishing in only 1 week, even less than that. However, I realized that the end result of this challenge would be much different if I was playing on an official server. Hell, if it wasn't for the increased rates, I would still be fishing to this day. I'm glad I managed to fish max and all, but I still have no idea what the legend fishing actually does. Or any fishing level for that matter. There is certainly a difference between levels in other skills. In cooking, you unlock new recipes with each level, and in farming you may start planting more different seeds, but with fishing it's just the same. I didn't notice any difference in the speed, success rates, fish rarity, or literally any other factor you could think of. So, in conclusion, the only thing you unlock with Legend of Fishing is bragging rights, I guess. But that can't be all, right? So, after I spent a whole week in Dragon Nest, doing nothing but farming, maxed out 2 of the 3 skills, and unlocked practically everything I could, what did that ultimately achieve in the grand scheme of the whole game? Well, the answer is nothing. Absolutely nothing. Sure, out of the entire cooking level, there are like 2 dishes that give you an effect that's actually worthwhile for once. But is it really worth all of that invested time and resources? No, it's not. I'm sorry to say this, but there definitely is a reason why the entire farming section could be completely removed from the game and the player base will literally lose nothing. Well, besides a couple of achievements and like one title that doesn't even have any stats. But have you ever wondered why that is? After spending the week doing nothing but farming, I think I finally came to the answer. In Dragon Nest, there are 2 main game modes, PvE and PvP. This is all standard and self-explanatory. But the truth is, in Dragon Nest, farming is not as much of a mechanic as an entirely separate game mode, with a few connections to the other modes, but mainly PvE. I'll call this game mode PBF, Player Becomes Farmer. From my personal experience, most players prefer to mainly stick to the game mode they like the most, either being mostly PvP or PvE. And since these modes are rather disconnected from each other, a PvP player wouldn't notice if changes were added to the PvE mode. So I myself, as a PvE player who couldn't care less about PvP, would be absolutely unaffected if the entire PvP arena was suddenly removed one day. But if we come back to the so-called PBF, its only difference is that this game mode is too niche and frankly the most unrelated to the rest of the game, and also the most boring. After watching to this point of the video, you might have wondered, should you do this yourself? And taking everything I've said into consideration, my answer is no. If you play Dragon Nest, then you already know how important gold is to your progression in the late game. And there is many more useful upgrades you could spend it on instead of a billion lemons. But if you genuinely want to reenact this challenge, then hey, there's nothing I can do to stop you. If after watching this video you decide to play Dragon Nest just to farm, then you're an absolute child and us mere mortals could not dream of being on the same plane of existence as you. Lately, I've noticed that Identity has been trying to make more players interested in the farming side, with little to no success. Well, Identity, I understand why you wanna do this, but I think one of your mistakes is trying to integrate the experience without first making this experience actually enjoyable. To showcase my point, let's go through a speed round of everything that can and should be optimized about the farming part of the game. 1. There is a way to speed up the crop growing process, but there is no way to do so after you already planted it. Make it so that the growth booster could also be added to growing crops later. 2. Plants that only have a 30-minute growing time should not require a watering can. 3. Plants that weren't watered should not teleport into the Shadow Realm immediately after the last drop of water runs out. You could either make it so that it simply stops growing until it's planted again, or there is an additional timer where it will dry out and die if you don't water it after this happens. 4. Make the goddamn crops auto-stack when you take them out of the warehouse, or at the very least, add the Take All button. 5. All the farming plots should be individual. I don't care what argument you make to try convincing me this is not a good idea. I will die on this hill. 6. This is something that the server optimized before Identity could, so props to them. The fishing time. Without this modification, the default fishing time is around 1 minute from what I remember. 1 full minute of nothing. I do agree that it doesn't have to be as short as the server made it to be, but the max amount I would suggest is 30 seconds, without the special rod of course. 7. Find a way to make fishing levels do literally anything other than being a useless progress bar. 8. The cooking part is definitely the most optimized out of all. The only complaint I have is that nothing you can cook, except for the 2 legendary recipes that you have to buy, will never be useful to anyone above level 10. It looks like I had found more complaints than the days I had to play, which certainly says something. But despite all of this, I can't say that I hated this challenge for a second. In fact, it wasn't even hard at all. This is certainly the most chill and cozy challenge I could possibly come up for this game, as the majority of it literally involves you being AFK. But hey, all I hope is that at least you didn't find this video boring to watch. Who knows? Perhaps I will come up with another challenge in the future. But until then, peace out. Guys, I was just about to log off when I've noticed this. Why is it pink? I've never seen this icon on an NPC before. What the fuck is this? A romance route? Nice to see you again, young adventurer. I must admit, I never expected a youngster such as yourself to enjoy farming so much, especially a pretty girl like you. You've been here for only a week and you already mastered 2 out of 3 fields I offered when it took me ages to learn the way of a proper farmer. Needless to say, I'm impressed. Thanks. I think if you continue like this, you'll become an excellent farmer one day. You know what? Come back to me when you become a cultivation legend, and I'll show you something real special, if you know what I mean. He winks and blushes. Guys, do not attempt this challenge unless you're into DILFs. I think that's enough Dragon Nest for me for today. What the fuck is this? I think I need a moment.